Brexit has failed. There's more migrants coming into the United Kingdom since a policy change by the Labour Party, by Keir Starmer. Yeah, more migrant vegetables coming into the United Kingdom. Now, this policy makes sense. Now, this applies to vegetables, and don't get me wrong, vegetables can get sick, alright? And they can transmit diseases. I get that. But before the Brexit, when all our numpties put that cross in the wrong box that they did, you know who you are. I'm watching you. Well, before they did that, the United Kingdom didn't check the vegetables coming into the United Kingdom or meat products from the European Union. Well, they just changed the rules because they did check, or they were supposed to check the vegetables coming into the United Kingdom because the policy changed and, well, that's, oh God, you know what, I'm getting all confused. It's just changing from one minute to the next. You see, when Boris Johnson, you know, Boris the Pfeffel Johnson, when he was the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, when he negotiated the deal, what have you, they did not implement the checks on vegetables or meat coming into the United Kingdom. No. But then eventually the checks were implemented because they were being enforced effectively enforced by the European Union to have some kind of level playing field. Anyway, so they were saying, yeah, you haven't done your part of the deal yet, have you, they'd say. So anyway, they were implemented in the end. Well, they've just lifted them. And this is due to negotiations between the Labour Party and the European Union. So these would be negotiations with, say, for instance, Maroš Šefčovič in the EU, the trade negotiator. Now, they've come up with this new plan, which is effectively no plan. Okay. Yes, the UK border checks on fruit and vegetable imports from the European Union have now been scrapped, and this happens to be in the Irish Independent. It's probably elsewhere as well, but you know, it seems to be legit that it does. So yes, planned border checks on fruit and vegetables imported into the UK from the European Union will be scrapped. Now, if those checks did come into play, could you imagine the delays at the border? What are you going to do? Check every single little apple coming from the limousine? Are you? No. Are you going to check every single little orange coming in from, I don't know, arguments like Spain? No. It'd be absolute madness. It would cause all sorts of bloody problems. Now, meat products coming in are supposed to be checked. Unfortunately, they are not being checked. Not 100% anyway. Many of them are getting through. And some of it's down to the ridiculous inland border facility down in Sevington, one of the Farage garages. Now, there were a whole load of Farage garages that were built all over the United Kingdom, near the ports and what have you, because of these so-called upcoming checks. In fact, certain certain ports spent a huge amount of money, down Safer actually, spent a huge amount of money in the United Kingdom on building like £25 million on border check facilities and what have you, never got used. They might be used now, mind you, but not to the degree that they need to be. Massive amount of money that has been spent. And it's not just there, there's elsewhere as well, you see. It doesn't work, you see. The United Kingdom's imports are quite considerable, because we don't make enough stuff and we don't grow enough stuff in the United Kingdom. In fact, we probably don't really have enough land when you consider the type of land that we have. Arable land. Much of our arable land might be, you know, up north, what have you, is very rocky and what have you. You're not going to run a flip and plough through that lot. No. That might be alright for sheep and goats, but not necessarily cows and what have you, or, you know, where you've got cows, you need quite a lot of arable farming as well to support the cows, whether it be maize, and obviously hay and straw and God knows what else you need to support, you've got to feed them, haven't you? You know, silage and that as well. So it was a crazy idea that we could check everything. Absolutely crazy. And the government actually knew that at the time. That's why they were delaying it. Because, you know, when people realised that they ain't going to get their food, in fact, there was already massive shortages of certain foodstuffs coming into the United Kingdom, people were getting a little bit anxious. Now, I've made loads of videos about it regarding the Brexit over the last few years. And some of it is quite shocking, really, how empty the shelves became. Everybody was, photographing the shelves, putting them online, posting it online, and look at this Brexit, boy, this is what Brexit's done. And it's very true, it is what Brexit's done. And what else were they doing? They were the supermarkets, because they didn't want to cause any political upset. They were printing out cards and what have you, and putting them in the spaces to make it look like there's vegetables there. But they weren't. Eventually they gave up, and then he says, due to a certain political situation, they basically changed their tune. But, Keir Starmer, this government, they're going to carry on not checking the fruit and vegetables coming in, so they haven't got to now, so it's getting cancelled, which is a good thing, because you would have run out. You would have run out. Also, the shelf life would be even more restricted than it is already, because even though there are no checks on fruit and vegetables, there are checks on the lorries coming in, still, from the European Union. And also than there was before. Like for instance, they usually have to go to the Sevington, because there's other stuff that goes into the European Union from China and places like that end up in the UK. And some of that stuff, it might be subjected to tariffs, and whether it be mixed pallets, whether it be mixed loads, all these things cause problems, and you need bundled warehousing and what have you to store this stuff while they're being checked. You can't do that with food. Obviously, because it reduces their shelf life. And that's one of the reasons why we had problems in the United Kingdom exporting live bivalve molluscs. The industry pretty much died a death, apart from those who were exporting to Japan and China and other places instead of the European Union. And some people who were managing to actually offload their catch directly in the EU. Obviously, the smaller fishermen couldn't do that. But it's just it's a fact of the situation at the time, and even now, that there are problems. As the negotiation has carried on, and they've lifted the restrictions on British fishermen, including the live bivalve molluscs, and I imagine they can now be depurated in the EU, which is basically a colonic. I don't even realise this, but you're supposed to clean out your oysters and mussels and what have you, because they have a filter digestive system. So basically everything goes into them, and considering you're eating absolutely everything, like for instance a mussel, you're eating all their guts. Lovely. So you could be eating a bit of shit that they've digested. Lovely. And you could end up with E. coli or some other nasty disease. And people have been. So they have to be depurated. You'd never ever eat any live bivalve molluscs directly from the fisherman. They must be depurated. Okay? And there's various ways to do. Some people put them in a bucket with some flour and what have you, and they'll clean themselves out that way. So effectively, they're just digesting the flour, and then anything nasty comes out. And the other way is very similar, actually. They put them into these depuration tanks, which the UK could do before the Brexit in the EU, but stopped because of Brexit, and now they can do it again. Thank God for that. As far as the fishermen are concerned. So now, the problem was, you see, as soon as the stuff ended up getting stuck in the port, they're dying. They were dying. So if you depurated them in the UK and then sent them over, they would have no shelf life, and nobody wanted them in the EU. So the EU were getting their supply from elsewhere, and the UK was, well, what do they do now? In fact, so many fishermen lost shitloads of money with their catch not getting past the customs in the EU, and forced them to go under. When you get a whole load literally destroyed because nobody wants them, well then quite frankly, you're done for. That's a lot of bloody money lost. So that's the situation. Luckily, the farmers, regarding their exports into the EU, that's been softened somewhat. Also, the fishermen have been softened considerably, considering what they had to put up with before. But that's their own doing. They voted for this shit, And now they're going to vote for the Reform Party because they think their lives are so bloody shit. They vote for the Reform Party. No way the Reform Party would have given these extra lenience. No. The Labour Party's done that. Yet they'll vote against them. Anyway, what do you say here? Please leave it in the comments down below, because I'm waffling on now, aren't I? And maybe support the channel, what are you? Super thanks, and buys coffees and stuff like that, and Patreon. memberships and what have you. Anyway, links down below. But please share my videos, please, because I've been suppressed. I have, yes, throttled by YouTube. Toodaloo.